Today my good to cancel order was hit on my ES Strangle that I placed a few days ago. This is part of my ES Strangle strategy that I've already done a video on that teaches you what the strategy is. I'm going to put a link to it in the description so you can check it out. Today we're just going to talk about what the results were on the trade itself. What I have on the screen here is the current ES chart. This red line right here shows where I actually entered the trade. And what I was looking for really is just some sort of pullback off this high so I could get into the trade with a little bit better entry on the put side of the strangle. Of course, if you don't know what a strangle is a naked call and a naked put. It has a lot of risk, unlimited risk to the upside, and on the ES especially, a substantial downside risk. So it's a high risk advanced trade. I don't recommend it for everyone. But if you're familiar with options trading, it can be this is a pretty consistent trade. I rarely have issues with it. A lot of it, counts. You need to have a good timing on your entries, and you need to adjust when you have to adjust, or just close it when you have to close it. I typically, probably over 95% success rate as far as not a losing trade on these trades. I can't promise you that'll happen in the future. You just never know. And if you do the trade wrong, you could lose a substantial amount of money. So check out the strategy in the link below. I do talk about that. Right here, like I said, I drew a red line where I entered the trade, which I entered the trade on this candle. I'd gotten a pullback. I typically would prefer to see the Bollinger Bands moving out from each other. Gives you an idea that volatility may be increasing. Volatility was not very high when I actually entered the trade, but I did go ahead and enter it right here. And when I entered it, the ES was trading at 30.30. I sold the 27.25 put, which it was about right in this area where I sold that put. The 27.25 was about right here. So I sold this put with it trading right in this area, and I sold the call at 31.55, which would have been right about here. I had put my initial alert in at about 30.30 to let me know that perhaps I need to make an adjustment on this trade. I was expecting it to be threatened on the upside, the call side, as opposed to the put side. So I was watching that very closely for a potential adjustment that I might have to make. I was fortunate that time passed. Like I said, I entered it on 10/31. Today's 11/14, so after just 14 days, enough time had passed that I was able to get out of this trade. Volatility had dropped slightly, which also helped me get out of this trade early. The expiration of the option I used back here was 11/29, so I had just a little over 30 days in the trade. You can see it pulled back here, but for the most part, it kind of moved toward my call, which did make me nervous. I'm not going to deny that. When the call side gets threatened, it can be an issue as far as rolling and correcting it. So I really don't like to see the call side, threatened, even though it typically is a slower grind up. Whereas a threat on the put side, had you just entered right here, for instance, on this right here could have been an issue for you if you were short on the put side. I was fortunate that I had actually entered right on this candle, so it chopped on this particular trade, chopped for me. I was able to get out of this one also. But timing can be an issue for you, so be careful not to enter these just before a Fed announcement or some other kind of announcement. You're much better off waiting to after the announcement and then placing your entry. Things worked out great for me on this trade. I ended up with about a 45.76% annualized gain, or about a 1.76% gain on the trade itself. My risk when I entered this, or at least the amount of cash I had to put up to secure the trade, was about $4,700. That does vary depending on volatility, and also it can go up during the trades. That's something for you to be aware of. As we look at the ES, it's been bouncing at this 2 ATR range. It's pulled, the 1 ATR is caught up with it a little, but it's still pretty heavy on the upside. I'm going to go ahead and look at a few more of my indicators. This is my wave indicator, and it's still pulled way away from that. This daily trend line was broken here, and it's continued to be broken here. So it's looking like it may be running out of a little steam, but this market has surprised me numerous times this year with its resilience toward the upside. So I'm not going to bet on anything, but I will. But look at the RSI, how high it is. You know, everything seems to be showing that we may have a pullback, and I may talk more about that tomorrow. Here are my moving averages. It's still bouncing off of the 10 EMA. It's getting good. Every time it hits it, it bounces up, hits it, bounces up, bounces up, bounces up. It certainly looks like it's going to continue up, but there's just a lot going on here. I haven't really talked about the TM squeeze indicator much in my videos, but it would seem to indicate to me that it's going to consolidate through this area. We'll have to see how that happens, but I want to pull up the actual trade sheet for you. Let's take a look at it. This was the actual trade sheet that I did when I entered the trade. The trade had an 84% probability of success when I entered it, which is a little low. I'd like to see these more toward a 90%. I got a $4.40 credit when I entered. I was able to close for $2.65, which is what I'd set my good to cancel order at. It ended up with an $82 profit on $4,700 risk. That doesn't sound like a lot, but when you annualize it, that's a 45% gain. So, if you're going to say dedicate $5,000 to these type trades at the end of the year, if you could end up with a 45% gain, that's pretty good. And these are very successful, but they are high risk, so be careful with if you decide to take them. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also in the description below talks about some of the indicators I use in case you don't have the indicators set up. This particular trade I really rely more on volatility and just deltas when I place the trade. The strategy link is also down there so you can take a look at it. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Thanks.